In the small and quiet village of Esang, there lived a happily married couple named Ego and Tobe. Ego and Tobe had a beautiful daughter named Ifunanya, who was their only child. After several attempts to conceive another child proved futile, Ego and Tobe finally accepted that Ifunanya was the only child they could have. As a result, they showered their little angel with so much love and gave her whatever she wanted. Since Ego and Tobe were both doing great financially and had a good business, they enrolled Ifunanya in one of the best primary schools in Esang village because they wanted their daughter to have the best education. As children, Ego and Tobe came from poor homes, so they never had the opportunity to go to good schools. Although Ego managed to complete her primary education, Tobe dropped out at primary 3 because he had to start learning a trade from his master at that young age. Thankfully, after years of faithfully serving his master, Tobe received a lot of money from him and he used it to start his clothing business, which really flourished. Then he married the love of his life. While in her primary school, Ifunanya studied very hard and she excelled. She was always at the top of her class, and years later, she graduated with the best results and several awards. Ah, my little angel, Ego called Ifunanya as she fondly called her. Your father and I are so proud of you, Ego added. You have no idea how happy and excited I was when your name was announced as the best graduating student, Tobe said to Ifunanya on their way back home. They were returning from Ifunanya's graduation ceremony and Ifunanya was in the back seat of the car. Thank you, Daddy, Ifunanya said cheerfully. You know what? For making us proud today, we will take you out for a treat, Ego said excitedly. The remainder of that day, Ego and Tobe spent it celebrating their daughter's new milestone and they had so much fun. My husband, now that our daughter is done with her primary education, what is our next step? Ego asked Tobe that evening while they were together in their room. We will send her to a good secondary school. It had always been my dream to see our little angel go to a secondary school and then move forward to the university. You know, we both stopped at the primary level, and I want her to pass where her parents stopped, Tobe said. You're right. I have been thinking of a good secondary school we can send her to. You know, she's all we have, and she deserves the best, Ego said. There are plenty secondary schools here in Esang, but it had always been my dream for her to go to All Stars Secondary School, Tobe said. All Stars? Ego asked in shock. But All Stars is in the city, Ego added. Yes, I know. It's also very expensive and I'm ready to pay whatever it costs. When I was serving my master in the city, that school was the talk of town. All the rich men's children went there, and whenever the children returned from a short break from school, they would act like demigods and speak nice English, Tobe said. I know. I remember their ads on TV when I was still a child, and I think it was every child's dream in this village to go to All Stars, Ego said. We will send our Ifunanya to All Stars. Let her fulfill that dream for all of us, Tobe said excitedly and hugged his wife. The following morning, while having breakfast together, Tobe and Ego told Ifunanya what they had decided. I'll be going to All Stars! Ifunanya jumped excitedly when her parents told her. Yes, my little angel. That's where you will be schooling. Prepare yourself. We will go to the city tomorrow for your registration. I called one of my friends in the city and she told me that registration is ongoing at the school, Ego said. Oh, I love you, Mommy. Mwah! I love you, Daddy. Mwah! Ifunanya said. Then she kissed her parents on their cheeks, just as Tobe and Ego had said. The following day, Ego and Tobe took Ifunanya to the school in the city to register her for the next school session. Upon driving inside the school compound, Ifunanya was stunned by how big and massive the school was. It was like nothing she had ever seen before. Even Tobe and Ego admitted that the school was the biggest and most beautiful school they had ever seen in their lives. Everything was in the right order. The fields were properly trimmed, and the school buildings had just been repainted, and they looked shiny. Even though there were no students inside because of the school break, Ego and Tobe were certain they were taking Ifunanya to the right place. After arriving at the principal's office, Ego, Tobe and Ifunanya met the principal and processed her registration. Almost 2 hours after arriving at the school, Ifunanya completed her registration, received her school uniform and some books, and was told to resume in a few weeks. Since the school was a boarding school, the principal gave Tobe and Ego a list of things they needed to buy for Ifunanya. While waiting for the school to resume, Ego went to the market every day until she bought everything on the list. In fact, she even bought more than Ifunanya would need because she didn't want her daughter to lack anything. Eventually, the D-Day came and the happy parents drove their daughter to the school. Since it was the general resumption day for all the students, especially new students, there were also new parents whose children were resuming for the first time. On that same resumption day, while Ifunanya was trying to pack her things to the hostel she was assigned, she made friends with a new student named Ada. Ifunanya and Ada had been assigned to the same hostel, so they talked to each other while taking their belongings there and bonded instantly. After a long day of taking things to her hostel and trying to arrange them, Ifunanya finally packed everything and she was ready to return to the hostel. My little angel, don't forget where you're coming from. No matter what happens, I want you to study very hard, okay? Tobe said, your mother and I will try our best to provide you with everything you need. He added, Ify, remember what I told you. Stay away from bad company. Don't be mean or look for your classmates' trouble. Most importantly, make sure you pray every night before you sleep and when you wake up every morning. If you are in trouble, talk to God first before you call us. He will get to you first before we do. Ego said, Yes, Mommy, I have heard. Ifunanya said with a smile, My angel, if you need anything, do not hesitate to call us, okay? Tobe said as he hugged his daughter. We will be leaving now. Don't cry, okay? You are a big girl now. Ego said while holding back her tears. Ego was already emotional that she would not get to see Ifunanya for weeks. Since Ifunanya was born, leaving her at All Stars would be her first time staying without her daughter. Mommy, I'm not crying. You are the one who is crying. Ifunanya laughed. Don't worry, I will be fine. I like it here already, she added. After several times of hugging Ifunanya and kissing her cheeks, Tobe and Ego finally left. Do you think we made the right decision bringing her here? Ego asked in a teary voice. Yes, we did. With time, you will get used to her not being around, Tobe said. But what if she cannot cope on her own? What if she needs our help and we are not there to help her? Ego said in a panic. Ego, relax. Ify will be fine. She is stronger than you think. Besides, she needs this experience to learn how to be independent. I was even younger than her when I came to serve my master here in the city. Tobe said. But you were a boy. Ego tried to defend. No, I was a child. It didn't matter if I was male or female. I was still a child who dropped out at primary 3. That's way younger than our daughter's age. Tobe said. So, do you think that she'll be okay? Ego asked. I know so. She is our daughter, and we raised her to be strong. She will be fine, Tobe said. After Tobe convinced Ego that Ifunanya would be fine, Ego stopped panicking and they talked about something entirely different until they arrived home at Esang village. Back at school, Ifunanya was doing great. She and Ada, her new friend, had gotten very close and coincidentally, they slept next to each other. Since they were both freshers, the hostel matron ensured that all the students in JSS1 were prioritized. They were properly cared for and they got the largest portion of food while eating. In the first few weeks at All Stars, everything seemed fine and Ifunanya and Ada had the time of their lives. The school was always very peaceful and the security was tight. In fact, being at All Stars was like a home away from home for all JSS1 students and they had no reason to worry about anything. But sadly, this way of life did not last for too long. Almost 2 months after Ifunanya began schooling there, she began to hear disturbing rumors that sent chills down her spine. Ify, did you hear that Senior Amaka is missing? Ada whispered to Ifunanya one evening while going to the dining hall for dinner. Who is Senior Amaka? Ifunanya asked innocently. Don't you know that tall and fair senior that shares bread to us every Monday morning? She's the assistant kitchen prefect. Ada said. Oh, I remember her now. What do you mean by she's missing? Ifunanya asked. Shh! Why are you so loud? Ada tried to cover Ifunanya's mouth. The other students have not heard about it yet. I overheard the other seniors talking about it. Ada whispered. Oh, I didn't know that. Ifunanya said in a low voice. Have they searched everywhere for her? She added. Yes, I heard the seniors say they have searched everywhere for her. But it's been 2 days now and no one has seen her. Ada whispered. That's bad. Do you think she ran away from school? Ifunanya asked. No, it's almost impossible to get past security. And even if she tried to run away from school, security would have said something if they saw her. Ada said. Let's just hope she's still around here. If her parents find out that their daughter is missing, they will be very worried. Ifunanya said. I hope they find her, Ada said. Immediately after entering the dining hall, Ada and Ifunanya stopped talking about the senior because they didn't want their fellow classmates to hear them or eavesdrop on their conversation. The next day, while Ifunanya and Ada were in their hostel trying to observe their afternoon rest, they heard screaming from one of the senior hostels, and they all ran out to see what was happening. Upon reaching the hostel, Ifunanya, Ada, and some of the other junior students realized that the senior who had gone missing had returned, but her classmates were not excited to see her. What happened to you? Ifunanya and Ada could hear the other senior students question the missing senior even before they saw her. I don't know. I heard a baby's cry and I followed it. I can't remember what happened after that. I feel very sick. The senior tried to explain all at once. When Ifunanya and Ada managed to pass the crowded students and see the missing senior, They were speechless and scared at the same time. This senior, who everyone knew to have a very fair complexion, suddenly turned pale and her eye bags and lips turned very dark. Not only that, but her gum was black too, and some of her teeth had fallen out. The missing senior literally looked like a walking corpse, except that she could speak and walk. While the students were gathered around her, some school officials broke through the crowd and took the senior away. While the school officials were taking the senior away, Ifunanya, who was standing next to a group of seniors, overheard one of the seniors say, "This was what happened to Elizabeth 2 weeks ago before she died. Now it's Amaka. I think something is killing students in this school." When Ifunanya heard that, she was shocked, but managed to hide her expression so the seniors would not know she had overheard them. "I think something is wrong. I overheard the other seniors saying that this has happened before," Ifunanya told Ada on their way back to the hostel. "Are you sure about that?" "I don't think it has. If not, the news would have covered it. My parents did a lot of investigation on this school before sending me here, and we didn't find any negative reviews, not even one," Ada said. "So, you think the seniors are lying?" Ifunanya asked in a confused tone. "Maybe they are. Though I can't really tell why that senior looked that way. I have never seen anyone look like that before," Ada said. "I just hope they take her to the hospital on time so she can recover," Ifunanya said. Later that night, Ifunanya could not sleep because she could not stop thinking of what she had heard from the senior students. Her friend Ada and the rest of her classmates in her hostel were deeply asleep, while Ifunanya struggled with her thoughts. After hours of turning in bed, Ifunanya finally managed to sleep. But shortly after she did, she heard something that sounded like someone trying to open their hostel door. Since her bed was not too far from the door, Ifunanya peeked to see who it was, and she saw one of her classmates walking out of their hostel. To Ifunanya, it seemed like the girl was sleepwalking. But since she was too scared to go after the girl, she went back to bed. The following morning, Ifunanya told Ada what she had seen. But instead of taking things seriously, the two girls laughed and teased the girl. Later that evening, while Ifunanya and Ada were preparing to go for their night prep, they heard some of the girls talking about the girl who was sleepwalking, and they claimed they had not seen her since morning. At first, when Ifunanya heard rumors that the girl was missing, she thought her fellow classmates were just messing around. But when that night and the next night passed and no one had seen the girl, Ifunanya began to panic. "Do you think something bad has happened to her?" Ifunanya said to Ada. "I don't know. Do you think she must have walked into a place she cannot come out from?" Ada asked. "I don't think so," Ifunanya said. "Maybe something bad has happened to her. Even teachers and other seniors are looking for her," she added. That day, while Ifunanya and Ada were talking about the missing girl, something very strange happened. Out of nowhere, the girl just stumbled back to the hostel and fell to the ground. But that wasn't all. She was in a terrible shape. Her skin looked very pale, her lips and eye bags were very dark, and everything else was similar to that of the previous missing senior. Except that before the school officials arrived at the hostel to take the girl to the hospital, she had died. By the time the hostel matron arrived, the junior student was already dead, and many students had witnessed her death. Thankfully, the matron managed to control the panic, and she promised the students that she had everything under control. "I think I will have to call my parents and tell them that someone just died," Ifunanya said. But you heard what the matron said. There is no need for us to call our parents. Ada tried to persuade Ifunanya. What if something bad happens to me? Ifunanya asked. Weren't you the one who told me your mom instructed you to pray first whenever you were in trouble or afraid of something? Maybe this is the time you should pray to God for protection. Ada said. You're right. I will pray before I go to bed. It will help me stay calm. Ifunanya said. What about you? Will you pray with me? She asked Ada. Don't worry about me. Just pray for yourself. Ada said. Okay, if you say so, Ifunanya said. That night, before Ifunanya went to bed, she prayed for God's protection and she also prayed for her friend, Ada. The following morning when Ifunanya woke up, she noticed that Ada was a little bit distracted and she didn't seem like her usual self. Ada, is everything alright? You seem very different and quiet. Ifunanya said in a concerned tone. I think I had a nightmare last night. Ada answered. Nightmare? Tell me about it. Ifunanya said. I saw a young girl weeping, and when I walked to her, she was dead. Her face was so scary that I couldn't even look at her. That's not all. She was also carrying a crying baby that was covered in blood. Ada said in a scared and shaky voice. That must be really scary. Did the girl try to hurt you or do any harm? Ifunanya asked. No, it was like she wanted me to follow her. I don't really remember. I was terrified and I can't get her image out of my head. Ada said. I'm sure you will forget about the nightmare soon. We have a lot of activities and classes today. Don't worry. Ifunanya said to cheer up her friend. During their sports activities, Ifunanya thought that Ada would cheer up and forget about her nightmare. But that didn't happen. Instead, Ada was so quiet that she barely talked to any of her classmates and she seemed really shaken. Later that evening, Ada refused to go to the dining hall because she was still afraid. I feel like she's watching me, Ada said when Ifunanya asked her why she didn't want to go to the dining hall. What do you mean? Ifunanya asked. I can't tell why, but I feel the same way I felt in that nightmare. It's almost like the sound of the crying baby is still stuck in my head. Ada said. Okay then, if you are so scared, maybe I should pray for you. That will make you feel better, Ifunanya said. At first, Ada wanted to stop Ifunanya from praying for her. But when she saw how serious Ifunanya was, she kept quiet. After Ifunanya said a short prayer for Ada, Ada thanked her friend and admitted that she felt much better. The two friends ended up eating from their provisions, and after they did, they left for night prep. That night, when Ada and Ifunanya returned from studying, they both went to bed early. Unlike Ifunanya, who was always the last person to sleep, she went to bed pretty early because she was exhausted from all the school activities that day. A few hours after they slept, around 1 a.m., Ifunanya woke up to the sound of Ada struggling with something. When she took a closer look, it turned out that Ada was struggling to open their hostel door, whose lock had been changed after the first girl died. Ada! Where are you going to? Ifunanya got up from her bunk and walked to Ada. Ada! I'm talking to you! Ifunanya said, but Ada did not answer. When Ada did not answer, Ifunanya was forced to tap Ada's left shoulder, and immediately she did, Ada regained consciousness. What am I doing here? Ada asked Ifunanya. You were trying to open the hostel door, Ifunanya said. No, I wasn't. Is that crying girl again? I saw her and her baby, and she told me to follow her to the abandoned library. I remember trying to follow her, not trying to open the hostel door, Ada said all at once. Did you have the same nightmare again? Ifunanya asked in shock. You were sleepwalking, just like I saw the other students sleepwalking before she died, Ifunanya said. I don't understand. What do you mean? Ada said in a confused tone. Do you remember when Senior Amaka mentioned that she heard a baby crying when she returned? Yes, I do, Ada said. I think I know why the girls have been missing. Some spirit is luring them to that abandoned library, the same one the girl in the nightmare asked you to follow her to, Ifunanya said. Tomorrow morning, we will go and talk to that senior. But before that happens, you will spend the rest of the night with me, and I'm not letting you out of my sight, Ifunanya said. The remainder of that morning, Ifunanya struggled to stay awake and watch Ada until dawn. Then, as soon as the hostels were open, the two friends went to see the senior they spoke about. As much as I wouldn't want to believe you, I actually do. Days before my friend went missing, she was rambling about a young girl and her baby crying in this hostel. At first, I thought she was trying to scare me with the hostel ghost legend. But now that your friend has seen the same thing, I think we might have a problem, the senior said. Come with me. Let's go to the matron and report this, the senior added. Without wasting time, Ada, Ifunanya and the senior went to see their hostel's matron, whose house was close to the hostel. Are you three in any way insinuating that our school is haunted by the ghost of a young girl and her baby? The matron asked after she listened to everything the three girls said. Yes, ma'am. And my friend here would have been missing if I didn't stop her from leaving the hostel this morning, Ifunanya said. This is serious, the matron said. Ma'am, we would love to ask you a question. If it is really true that the school is haunted, did someone die here a long time ago? It has to be the only reason her spirit would be trying to lure and kill students, the senior student asked. I know I shouldn't be telling you this, but promise me you will not say a word to anyone, not even your parents, the matron said in a low voice. We promise we won't, the three girls said in unison. 7 years ago, a student died here at All Stars. At least that's what we believed. She suddenly went missing, and we searched everywhere for her, but we couldn't find her. That was when the school nearly shut down because her parents were very influential people and demanded to see their daughter. But after months of searching for her, we could not find her body. We later learned from her best friend that she was pregnant for a teacher. Unfortunately, her best friend didn't know who. It was about a year after the girl went missing that we began to have missing person cases, the matron said. But the young girl I saw was with a baby, Ada said. If you see a picture of the girl, would you be able to recognize her? The matron asked Ada. I didn't really get a good look at her face because it was too scary to look at. But I think I will recognize her if I see her, Ada said. Okay, please hold on, the matron said before going into her room. A minute later, she returned with an old yearbook and opened to a particular page. Let me know if you see her, the matron said as she handed the book to Ada. After what seemed like minutes of Ada scanning through the page, Ada pointed at a picture.
"She's the one!"
Ada said. Immediately Ada showed the picture to the matron. She gasped in shock.
"It's the same girl!"
"But I don't understand. We never saw her again.
She just disappeared."
"How did she give birth then?" the matron asked.
"What of the library you talked about?"
the senior asked Ada.
"I don't know why, but she told me to follow her to an abandoned library,"
Ada said.
"Ma'am, how long has the old library been abandoned?"
the senior student asked the matron.
It's been more than 10 years now. No one goes in there because it has been abandoned for a long time now,"
the matron said.
"When you were looking for the missing girl, did they check the abandoned library?"
Ada asked.
"No, like I said, it had been... Oh my God! Do you think she was stuck there?"
the matron asked in shock.
"I think we should all go in there and search. If what we think is true, hopefully we might find her remains there,"
the senior student suggested.
"I really hope you are all wrong,"
the matron said. That morning, instead of preparing for class like they were supposed to, Ada, Ifunanya, the senior student, their hostel matron, and some male students went to the old library to search for the ghost girl's remains. To their greatest surprise, they found 2. It turned out that the ghost girl had given birth to a baby while stuck in the library.
"Oh my God!"
The matron burst into tears when she saw the girl and her baby's skeleton.
"How did this happen to you?"
the matron cried.
"We need to get out of here and contact the school authorities immediately,"
the matron said. But just before anyone could step out of the library, the door shut by itself and the lights began to flicker.
"Only one of you is getting out of here alive,"
Ada said in a very disturbing hoarse voice.
"Ada, why would you say something like that?"
Ifunanya asked.
"Ada is no longer here. It's..."
Ada screamed, and her facial expression looked very disturbing.
"Oh my God! The ghost has possessed Ada!"
Ifunanya said in a panic. It turned out that the dead girl's ghost had truly possessed Ada, and she was speaking through Ada's body.
"Oh, it's more than that. I'm going to ensure you all feel the pain I felt,"
Ada said. Immediately after Ada said that, a strong force pulled her into the air and she was suspended in the center of the room. Then her legs and hands had begun to twist to the back, and it was obvious that Ada was in so much pain.
"Sema, please, listen to me. You don't have to do this. God knows we searched everywhere for you when we realized you were missing,"
the matron said in a teary voice.
"No, you didn't. If you did, you would have found me,"
Ada yelled.
"We did. Your parents came and they cried every day while searching for you. No one knew you were stuck here since the library had been abandoned for years."
"Stuck here? I wasn't stuck here. I was waiting for him," Ada said.
"He promised to come back for me so he would take me to the hospital to deliver my baby. But you didn't,"
she added.
We didn't know you were pregnant until we couldn't find you. We tried to find the teacher who was responsible, but no one took responsibility for you or the pregnancy.
The matron said.
That's a lie. Mr. Greg loved me and he promised to marry me. He just wanted me to hide my pregnancy and to leave our baby in secret.
Ada said.
Greg is a liar. He told us he had nothing to do with you and didn't know your whereabouts. Please, Sema, I know you are so angry. You have been here for years and you delivered your baby all alone. I understand why you are so angry. You have every reason to be, but you have been killing innocent people and Ada has nothing to do with this. You need to let her go, please. I will call your parents to come and take your remains and give you and your baby the burial you both deserve.
The matron said.
My parents would disown me if they knew I was pregnant.
Ada said.
Sema, they already knew and they didn't care. All they wanted was their precious baby. It would give them so much solace to know that they found your remains and buried you properly. As for Greg, do not worry. He will get the punishment he deserves.
The matron said. As soon as the matron said that, Ada began to weep and she slowly landed on the floor. Almost immediately, the door opened and Ada regained consciousness and all the students and teachers ran out of the abandoned library. 2 days later, Sema's parents arrived at the school to take their late daughter's remains and they gave her a small burial. As for the teacher who impregnated her and left her to die in the abandoned library, he was arrested and jailed after confessing to his crime. Although Ifunanya and Ada recovered from the terror and shock they experienced, their parents were forced to withdraw them from All Stars because they could not afford anything bad to happen to their daughters. Thankfully, after Sema's remains were recovered, the hunting stopped. But the lives of the students never remained the same after they all found out that a teacher had impregnated their fellow student and plotted to kill her so he could cover up his evil acts. As a result, the school lost so many students, and after weeks of trying to control the scandal, the government shut it down. The end. Did you enjoy this story? Tell us your favorite part in the comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also, do not forget to follow our channel on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you.